A ton of snow will be coming to the United States over the next couple of weeks, as we are expecting several winter storms to impact the country that will lead to heavy snowfall and even ice accumulation. In addition to that, we are expecting an Arctic blast next week that will drop the temperatures across nearly the entire country. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about the weather that'll be impacting the United States over the next couple of weeks, and we'll begin with what's happening across the country today. And we actually have a winter storm happening right now. We have freezing rain and as well as snow that is currently moving into the northeast, and we've also had a tornado threat ongoing overnight back over in Kentucky and Tennessee. We actually had a rare 5% tornado risk for the month of February issued back over in Tennessee and Kentucky. Don't see that very often, especially that far to the north in early February. There was a lot of instability, lots of warm air, and that is actually going to continue throughout the morning and as well as into this afternoon. There may be another isolated tornado or even a little bit damaging winds back over in parts of Tennessee. But nonetheless, we are expecting some heavy snow and freezing rain over the next several hours back in the northeast. But hold on, there are multiple more winter storms coming behind this one. This is just an appetizer to what you can expect as we go into this weekend and next week. There will probably be at least 2 more winter storms in the northeast, so definitely be ready for that. Back through the Great Plains, things are looking relatively quiet right now, and look at this. The West Coast is also very quiet. There's still a little bit of rain and also cold weather back behind all these atmospheric river events that have been happening. But the good news is that we are drying off back over in California, Oregon, and as well as Washington. Now let's talk more about these big winter storms that are coming to the United States and exactly where we're going to be seeing the snow and how much snow we can expect in these areas. We'll begin with what's happening today. Again, notice that we have heavy snow and freezing rain moving into New England right now. This will continue throughout the afternoon hours into the early evening tonight before eventually moving out as we go into the overnight hours. So notice that there will be still some snow left over even into early Friday morning, but we are pretty much done with this as we go into Friday afternoon. Now, we're not going to wait long until our next winter storm. Our next one is actually going to start developing Saturday morning, but it will really ramp up as we go into the afternoon hours across the Midwest and the northern Ohio Valley, and we are expecting some moderate and even at times heavy snowfall back in parts of Wisconsin, Michigan, and even southeastern Minnesota and northeastern Iowa. Eventually, by the evening hours, this thing explodes when it comes to intensity. We're going to be talking about a large area of moderate to heavy snowfall moving across parts of southern Canada, back into New York, northern Pennsylvania, and then eventually moving into New England as we go into early Sunday morning. On the other hand, we're going to be dealing with freezing rain and sleet, which will likely occur in northern Indiana, central Ohio, and then back even into parts of Maryland and southern Pennsylvania. And we do expect that this winter storm here will be a bit more significant than the one we're dealing with right now back over in the northeast and the Ohio Valley for 2 different reasons. One, the snow and freezing rain will be heavier, and then 2, it's also going to be a much more intense low pressure system. Eventually by Sunday morning, we are going to be talking about heavy snowfall across most of New England, New York, and back into northern Pennsylvania before eventually by Sunday afternoon, this is moving out and we're only going to be dealing with light snow on the backside of that. Now, as we go into early next week, you guessed it, there will be more snow and as well as freezing rain coming to the United States. Right now, the GFS model is indicating that we are going to have an area really to watch for. It's going to be right in this battle zone that we're going to be talking about from areas like the central and southern plains back into the Ohio Valley and the mid-Atlantic region. And what I mean by that is that we're going to have cold air coming out of Canada, clashing also with a jet stream right about here, and then also warm air and moist air coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. And what this is going to lead to is a very interesting scenario where we're going to probably have a relatively large area dealing with both snow and as well as some freezing rain and as well as normal rain and perhaps even some severe weather. So it's going to get very, very dicey next week, I think, across much of the United States when it comes to the weather. I think it's going to be crazy, honestly, next week. This is what it looks like as we go into Tuesday. The early indication is that we'll have an elongated area of snowfall across areas like the Central Plains, Ohio Valley, and as well as back through parts of the Northeast, and then maybe even a severe weather component back over in the Deep South on Tuesday. Now, keep in mind that this is still about 5 days from now, so there could be some changes to the forecast. Just make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and we'll keep you posted with the latest on anything that changes with the forecast, because I definitely think there will be some changes to this. It's going to really be contingent on how far south that cold air goes and also how far north all that moisture ends up lining up with that cold air. Eventually, as we go into early Wednesday, that moves offshore, and the GFS model still stays bullish on there being more winter storms beyond this, but honestly, the forecast confidence on anything beyond 6 or 7 days out is very high. With that said, it does indicate even more snow for the Northeast and perhaps even another big winter storm a little bit after February 15th. Now, keep in mind that I've been talking about this for well over a week now, that we've been saying there's probably going to be a lot of weather happening here in the middle of February, including some big winter storms and an Arctic blast, and it's honestly all coming together right now. It looks like it's going to be a very active next couple of weeks, so make sure to subscribe to the channel, and we're going to keep you posted with the latest on everything that you need to know about these winter storms. And I think it's only fair if I show you another computer model, which basically verifies what I was talking about. This is the European model as we go into Saturday and Sunday. It paints the picture that we're going to have a large winter storm across areas like the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and Northeast, and then eventually early to mid next week, it has that elongated area of moisture, including rain, freezing rain, and as well as snow across areas in the Central Plains, back through the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic region. I do want to point out that this particular model does not show nearly as widespread of snowfall, which is why I'm saying don't get your hopes up too high quite yet. There definitely could be some changes to the forecast, but I do think there will be some snow for sure next week. And even if it doesn't happen then, the European model still shows another area of snowfall as we go into Thursday and Friday, and then it also has an extremely large winter storm by next weekend. But again, there's really no science in forecasting this far out. The GFS model did not show anything like this, but I'm just pointing it out that again, I think the next couple of weeks here are going to be very active. Now, before we speculate on exactly what the snowfall accumulation numbers could look like next week and as well as this weekend, I do want to show you the probabilities of seeing at least 1 inch of snowfall, which as of now are very high if you are anywhere in the dark red. Back over here in the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and Central Plains, the odds are close to 80 to 90% now, so you are going to probably see some snow here over the next 7 to 10 days. And then back here along areas like the lower Ohio Valley, back into the Tennessee Valley, and also back into the Southern Plains, this is a bit more of a question mark. There is a low to medium chance right now of there being some snowfall, maybe as far south as Texas. And then if you're wondering if you're going to see more than a foot of snow here over the next week or two, the probabilities back over in the Northeast are extremely high. I mean, over the next several days, we're going to have multiple different winter storms in the Northeast, and that's going to stack up very quickly. The chances of you seeing more than a foot of snow in the Northeast are almost 80 to 90% right now, which is something that you don't see very often. So we are going to be talking about, I think, some very significant snowfall in the Northeast. I wouldn't be surprised if a few spots in the Northeast got as much as 2 to even 3 feet of snow over the next couple of weeks. Now, the big winter storm that is coming this weekend will dump a ton of snowfall, especially across the upper Midwest and back through the Great Lakes and into the Northeast. This is the early indication of how much snowfall we can expect this weekend. Back over in the upper Midwest, I would expect a widespread 3 to 6 inches of snow in Minnesota and Wisconsin. The greatest amount of snowfall will be in this purple area, and I honestly think 5 to 10 inches of snowfall is pretty likely in this area. And then back through areas like Michigan, 3 to 6 inches of snow across most of the state is likely, and then also into Iowa and northern Illinois. A coating to perhaps even up to an inch or two of snow is possible, but more than anything, ice is going to be a concern in this area. And then back over in the Northeast, this is where we're expecting a much more significant weather event when it comes to snowfall. Right now, I would at least expect about 4 to 8 inches of snow in parts of southern New England and southeast New York, but again, I could easily see these numbers going up as we get closer, maybe even a few spots near a foot of snow. And then back over northern New England and western New York, again, a 3 to 6 inch range is what I'm expecting right now in most of those areas. But again, I think a lot of those numbers will be going up as we get closer to this winter storm actually happening. And then this is the amount of snowfall that we could see over the next couple of weeks in the Northeast. This is all the way through the middle of February. Again, I know these numbers look really high, but this is actually a possibility over the next couple of weeks. Now, keep in mind that this amount of snowfall is going to be split up across multiple different winter weather events, and it's going to be contingent on us seeing that jet stream really start to feed a lot of moisture here into the Northeast, where we get multiple different storm systems that form along that jet stream, as I showed a few moments ago. But we definitely have a chance, I think, for most of New England seeing around a foot of snowfall here between now all the way through the middle of February. Again, I wouldn't get your hopes up quite yet, but the confidence is definitely increasing a lot. Almost every computer model right now is showing this type of scenario, and honestly, the long-term ensembles as well have been showing this for multiple days, where there's a pretty good chance that we're going to be talking about over a foot of snow in most of New England. So get ready. It's going to be a very active next couple of weeks in the Northeast. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and again, we'll keep you posted with the latest on these winter storms. As I've mentioned a few times, there will be some changes to the forecast, but this is what the European model is currently showing through Friday of next week in terms of snowfall accumulation. And again, this is a long-term forecast, but a lot of this snow, especially in the Northeast, will be falling here over the next several days and as well as into early to middle of next week. But even back over here in the Ohio Valley, Midwest, and back through the central and northern plains, we will at least probably see many areas around a coating to a couple of inches of snow. GFS model is relatively similar to that scenario, but does show a more significant amount of snowfall happening along areas in the lower Midwest, back into the mid-Atlantic, and also even into parts of Kansas and as well as Oklahoma. And over the next couple of weeks, we are expecting a lot of colder air and more than likely a large Arctic blast. As we go into the middle and end of next week, that's when a lot of cold air will be filtering filtering in to both the Great Plains and the Midwest, while warm air dominates on the East Coast, which will keep a lot of what we're going to be seeing over here related to severe weather and just normal rain. And then eventually, as we go into the weekend, we may see a large buildup of cold air back over in Canada and back through the Rocky Mountains. And if this happens, we could have a really sharp area of cold air enter into the United States around February 17th. This is what some of the computer models hinted about just a few days ago, became a lot more inconsistent, didn't really show it, and now they're showing it again. So we definitely have to watch this very closely. But again, it's still around 11 days out, so there's definitely some time for there to be some changes to the forecast. European model shows something very similar as well, has a lot more warm air further to the north, but also has a sharp area of cold air as we go closer to February 17th as well. So again, consistency definitely there between these two computer models, but there definitely could still be some changes to the forecast as this is 11 days out. So make sure you stay tuned to the channel and we'll keep you posted with the latest on the winter storms and also the Arctic air.